Hey guys, it's Erin. Today's BookTube-A-Thon video challenge was to talk about your favorite book, and I saw this and I was like, yes, absolutely, I am doing this one because any chance to talk about my favorite book is a good time. If you know me in person at all, you'll know what I'm going to say because it's the answer. My favorite book in the whole world is The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. And I have to show you guys, this is my second set of the trilogy. When I was first introduced to Lord of the Rings when I was in middle school, my English teacher actually had us read through the trilogy in school, which was just like the coolest thing ever. And so I was actually on vacation early for Thanksgiving and I got it in the mail. She sent the work to me that I was missing for that week, and there it was, the mass market paperback. I was like, yay, something to read, and I read it and I just like fell in love with the Fellowship. And I actually, even though the school was gonna give us copies of the next two books, I talked my parents into buying the next two books for me a couple of weeks later because I just couldn't wait to finish reading the trilogy. And this was actually right before the movies came out, so I read the books I think twice, and then I saw The Fellowship of the Ring, the movie, for the first time, and I was just in love. Now, I've loved a lot of books in middle school that I don't even remember now, but for some reason The Lord of the Rings has always stuck with me, and I wanted to show you. I think I got these the next year when I was in 8th grade, but I have read them so many times that they are falling apart. That comes out. And I had to replace them recently with this beautiful set. A good friend of mine actually bought me the Two Towers one year for Christmas. She couldn't find the Fellowship of the Ring, and then when I reread the books the last time, I bought the other two. So this is like my new trilogy, and you can see they're already kind of worn out because I read them a lot. There were a couple of things that made me really love this series and continue to love this series. First of all is the just depth and richness of the world was not something I had ever experienced before. I liked reading fantasy, but I hadn't read a lot of it before I read The Lord of the Rings. I was more of a historical fiction girl, but this just sparked my imagination. It made me really aware too of like the world around me. For the first time, I remember really like paying attention to nature. I'm thinking about like, oh, the trees and what are the trees called, and like I started getting interested in astronomy and like looking at the stars just because of the detail and attention Tolkien pays to the world around his characters. And so that is something that has really just deeply impacted my life and my way of seeing the world. I know that's actually one of the things about Tolkien's books that some people dislike, that he spends so much time describing like nature, but that was something that really just sparked me. The second thing is the story. It's just so epic and big and dramatic and emotional, and there's all of these fascinating characters. Eowyn is and will always be probably my favorite female character. Just the things that she experiences and the desires she has. She doesn't want to be a typical woman and fulfill a woman's role. She wants to be a soldier and go out and fight gloriously, and she gets to do that, and I just think that's fantastic. She's definitely my favorite female character in Tolkien's universe, and contrary to popular belief, there are quite a lot of female characters in his universe. You just have to read the Silmarillion to get most of them. the detail, the story that was so epic and beloved, and the reason I think that it's continued to be my favorite book is because those things haven't changed, but they have just gotten deeper and richer the more that I learn about this book. This really was the first book. I'm treating it as one book. It is one book, just they had to divide it into 3 parts because of publication costs. This was the first story that I really started to research, and so it kind of like set me on this path that I'm still on right now. I'm getting my PhD in English literature, and it's because of The Lord of the Rings. It really taught me how to delve into a book, to understand about learning about how the story was written and the contexts of the story and the things in the story, and everybody, you know, people debating all of these little nuanced details brought them to my attention. And there is so much in this book. I have reread it probably more than 20 times in the last almost 20 years since since I first encountered the story. And I have also taught it to middle schoolers myself, and it just never stops giving me something. There's always another little insight, another little piece of the story, or a little detail that I didn't notice. That's another thing that I just really love about this. Like a lot of classics, the more you delve into it, the more you read it, the more familiar you get with it, the more you get out of it. So when I was in middle school, it was just a really fun story, and I couldn't get enough. And there wasn't a trilogy, or there weren't sequels, there weren't like a million books, so I had to be content with rereading this one. And I joined, you know, talking about it in class, and I researched it online, and I, you know, read encyclopedia entries, and I found the histories of Middle Earth, which is the kind of unpublished writings and drafts of Tolkien's universe, and I read those, and it just really sparked me, and I couldn't get enough of it. I probably know more about this series and about Tolkien's work than any other series or work ever, and it's just so close to my heart. It makes all of the parts of me happy, I guess, is another thing. The intellectual part is an important part of me, but also that like nerdy fangirl part is another important part of me, and I haven't found a book that kind of bridges both of those. Either books are really interesting to me intellectually, and I really love them, and because they're intellectual, or I have this kind of like fangirl thing where I just like love them profoundly and they are precious to me. But this is both. It's the only book that's both. So anyway, I could talk about this forever, but I'm going to stop. My battery is close to dying, and this video is getting kind of long, so I will quit. But these are my precious. They are the precious. I actually have an entire shelf of Lord of the Rings and Tolkien related works, including multiple copies of this book. I really love these covers. They're based on the original paperbacks, and they're fantastic. Thanks so much for watching. I'd love to hear what your favorite book is. Leave that for me in the comments, or if you made a BookTube-A-Thon video about your favorite book, link that. I'd love to go watch it. And that is it for this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!